Today's story is split up into 3 parts and was submitted by Skunk Commentator here on YouTube. You can find the link to their channel down below. I live in Sweden and we have quite a different school system than the US does. We have elementary school, then middle school, then the gymnasium instead of high school, even though the gymnasium and high school pretty much work the same. And this story began the day I began the gymnasium. The specialization that I had chosen was languages. We call the specialization humanism, and at the first day of the gymnasium I was scared, like most people are on their first day, because I knew hardly anyone. But however, on this first day, I met one of my great friends who we'll call Dwight. Dwight and I also met another guy called Jack, who we also became friends with, and me, Dwight, and Jack were the only guys in the humanism class, the rest were girls. One of these girls was a friend of Jack's. Her name was Detta. She wore glasses and her eyes had an expression of fright. She honestly looked like she'd seen a ghost. She became friends with a girl who we'll call Carrie. I made the mistake of getting to know them. We shared most of our lessons with the music and art specialization, making us the aesthetics humanism class, and it was pretty good class to be honest. Everyone got along with each other and we shared mentors. One for the art specialization, one for the music specialization, and one for my specialization. We can call my teacher Miss Kubrick, and in the beginning, I quite liked her. She was a great teacher in the Swedish course and she did her best to make the class feel like home to us. The calm before the storm lasted until fall break, and during that time I got to know Detta and Carrie quite well, and I even called Carrie a great friend of mine. I also had German, the second language I was learning at the time, with Detta, and sadly a person who I have quite a traumatic past with. That guy's name was Sam, and he was a friend turned bully, and he'd been in the same middle school as Detta and Jack earlier on. Neither of them knew, however, but I both told Dwight and Carrie throughout the time while I was still friends with Carrie. Part 2. The storm. After fall break, Carrie slowly became stranger and stranger, and then she disappeared. She stopped going to school for quite a while and blocked me on Snapchat, even though we had previously been good friends. I, however, decided to not care. I was still hanging out with Dwight, and I was happy about that. I still occasionally talked a little bit with Detta, but it was never some long and deep conversations, just small talk. I also still hung out with her during the classes we had in German because I was shy of the other people we had class with, mostly from the society specialization, but also to stay away from Sam. But I never really thought much about it. The year went on and then came January when shit officially hit the fan. One thing I have to mention about this class was that groups never existed until fall break, and after that, people were still hanging out and talking to each other outside of the groups. Everyone was okay with anyone. However, in January, I got off the bus to walk a short walk to my A-Tractor, which for the uninitiated is a car that only goes 30 kilometers per hour and has no back seat, when I got a message from one of my parents saying, "Adam, could you maybe not talk too much about horror in school?" This might sound strange, but during that period of my life, I loved horror films. I still do, but now I enjoy almost every form of film. But during that time, I used horror films as an escape from reality and having to deal with the bad memories that Sam had created. And the message was longer, but I think everyone gets the point, so I did just that. However, when I jumped off the bus a couple days after, my dad picked me up because it was heavily snowing then and my parents did not want me to drive to school myself because of how the roads got, and he started talking about that my teacher had called me and wondered what that was about. I was extremely confused and so was my dad, so I did the stupid thing and decided to confront my teacher. We set up a Zoom call because of COVID, and this is what was explained. Detta had previously had problems with being with other people, and her life, had basically fucked her over. However, she was so happy with the new friends she had found but could not be around because of the little reason that I like horror and gothic movies. My teacher explained that she'd said she didn't want me around her during the German classes. My teacher had also contacted the school psychologist and they would have a meeting with my parents, and of course, I was never really meant to find out about all of this until my teacher, quote, knew how I would react. I might not be a psychologist or study sociology or anything, but I think that saying a young adult not being allowed to be with his classmates is a bit strange because my teacher had also said I'd done nothing wrong. I would love to say the story ends here and that Detta got to live her life and I got to live mine and everyone would live happily ever after, but sadly, we are diving into the deepest pile of shit yet, like in the first Jurassic Park movie. Part 3. Descent into the darkest abyss. I had almost forgotten about the whole ordeal in part 2 when the summer finally began and the summer holiday was right around the corner. Carrie was still just gone, but I did not give a flying fuck about it. Detta was still doing her own thing, but she'd done enough damage. The class was even more split up than previously, and this might just be speculation, but it also goes right in line with what I'll say. Honestly, I believe she might have told her friends about what she'd done, and that they should also tell the teacher that Adam scares them. Lo and behold, a second message appeared on my phone while I was sitting at my computer one evening. I was playing Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt with a good friend of mine named Damien. I read the message and it said, "Hello Adam, we have to talk at my office soon. When do you have a long lunch break? Miss Kubrick." I told Damien about it all and he gave me some advice, both before and after the talk, and I am extremely grateful. The day came and I was scared. I felt like I was walking into my own execution, and when I sat down next to my teacher in her office, I felt like Alex Mason in Call of Duty Black Ops during the interviews about the numbers. I got told a lot of stuff and I don't remember every detail, but these are the highlights of what I remember and what I think about them. Some of the kids that were scared of me believed I apparently looked up to Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jigsaw, etc. because I enjoy horror movies and learning about the filmmaking process. This, in my opinion, was totally foobar because that exact same logic could make people interested in World War II into National Socialists and that gamers want to kill everyone they'd find because they kill people in video games. They asked, "Adam, have you had trouble getting friends before? It could be that you have problems with being around people. If so, there are people at the school that specialize on the topic." When I heard this, I almost got pissed. This could have been meant as something to help the student, but it was worded exactly this way and it felt like an insult. How would you feel if a teacher asked you this? I actually responded with, "No thanks, I do not want nor need a budget psychologist," which might have been a bit rude, but by then I had been through about 15 to 20 minutes of this and I felt my patience slipping after the time filled with how I apparently was going to become a serial killer according to some girls. I asked my teacher about who and when and what had happened to at least try to understand what had happened, but the response was, "It just happened recently," and that's when I officially gave up. I just said, "Then I cannot do anything. I can try to cool it a little, but nothing more," and she accepted that. When I got home that evening, I told my parents everything, and they sent a message to my teacher where they explained the situation, and my teacher actually backed off and said, "Okay, I'll talk with these students and try to get them to be more reasonable and actually be honest." Part 4. Past, Present, and Future. During the summer, I thought a lot about what had happened, and it did not help my self-esteem. Damien continued to support it, and we made a plan B in case this shit would begin again. I was scared shitless when I returned to school. I was so scared about what Detta would try, but honestly, I think she might have given up. She instead nowadays goes up to Dwight and I when we hang out, and I choose to ignore her and never look into her eyes. I don't want to wake the sleeping bear, so to say, but I won't do anything about it either. Her life and her problems. Neither should involve me. A lot of people have also stopped hanging out with her, which could also be because this might have gotten out because of her. I haven't talked to anyone else about it. Carrie also quit. I believe it was because she had poor mental health, which is why she was almost always absent from school, and honestly, I wish her the best of luck, but I also don't give a rat's ass about what'll happen to her. Like I said, her life and her problems, neither should involve me. If you're going through something similar to this, your family are your best friends. My family helped me, and even though both Dwight and Damien and multiple others were there for me, I don't want them to have the responsibility for me during this. I advise those of you who might go through something similar to first talk to your family, then a psychologist, then your friends. If you're going through this, I wish you the best of luck. It's sometimes hard to see other people like they are like you, but that goes both ways, I guess. And those people didn't see me as a person, and my life was just basically ruined by letting them into it and underestimating them. I, however, now know that I've grown as a person by this, and I do not wish anyone else to go through this. Thank you for listening.